So this is definitely something I've waited for quite a while, and that happens to come down to a Pro version of the Tilta Mirage matte box system. Now, I do have the original Tilta Mirage matte box system. This is the newer Pro version. Look at the size difference, but there is so much more that you actually get in the Pro version. It definitely is suited towards professional cinematographers. Now, right from the start, we do have to talk about the quality differences. The original version still is metal with a couple of carbon fiber components, but also the newer version seems to be a full metal design with those carbon fiber components as well, which is great for the build quality. But everything seems to be just a little bit more well machined and well thought of in the Pro version, because I guess this is the second iteration of their Mirage matte box system, and they've just tweaked a few things to make it a little bit better. Now, one of the great features that I absolutely love about this is that it can go up to not just 95mm clamp-ons, but all the way up to 136 diameter clamp-ons. So if you do have lenses that wide, then obviously this is going to be extremely useful. Now, when it comes to the clamp-on sizes, you have that 95, you've got 110, 114, and that 136 diameter, which you can change between. And changing these is very simple. So all you need to do is grab onto the back, loosen these, literally slide it down, and pull it straight out. That is so simple. Put the other one back in, slide it back up, tighten these two knobs, and you're good to go. Now look, if you don't actually have a lens that has a 95mm clamp-on system, you can still get these adapters here, which obviously has a screw and then goes up to that 95mm front diameter. And then that's where you can clamp it directly onto that adapter. So pretty much that doesn't just limit you to a whole bunch of cinema lenses. You can get some older vintage stills lenses. You can even still use stills lenses as well with this system. So it just gives you so much more versatility than just your standard cinema lenses. But the great thing about some of these ones is it allows you to use the rubber donut, which stops you from using the clamp-on, and you can actually use the rod adapters and then just use the rubber donut. And look, if you don't know what the rubber donuts are, I haven't used these since film school, but they're fantastic if you don't actually have any filter threads directly on the front of the lens, or if the lens is a little bit too big for the matte box, you can literally just put the lens directly in here without having it attached. And this rubber section will actually obviously keep the light out from, reaching in, and then it's just going to completely black it out, which is great. And the great thing about these ones is that you actually attach it to the rods on the front, and then you can actually swing it away, change the lenses, and then swing it back in, put the rubber donut on, and you're away to go. And when it comes to the sizes, I've got 80 to 95mm of that front diameter. I've got a 95 to 114, and then 114 to 136. So it covers a whole bunch of different diameters depending on obviously what lens you have. And the reason why it does have a millimeter variance is that obviously it is a rubber end, and the rubber will stretch to fit the specific range that you are given within these donuts. Now, just touching base on this front unit here, when you actually attach it to the rods, this will give you the ability to use those front donuts. But then also you do have this button here where you can actually swing the matte box away, change the lens, and then swing it back. This just makes things so much faster. You don't have to have any clamp-ons, and you definitely don't have to screw anything on the actual front of the lens. Now, you do have the ability to adjust the height of this as well to make it go up and down, obviously depending on, where your rods are compared to where your lens is. But then also you can tilt the front of the matte box here with the adjustment. You can make it nice and flat, or you can tilt it up or tilt it down, which just gives you a little bit of adjustability on obviously the fitment of your lens compared to where you want the matte box. So pretty interesting. There's a lot of versatility here. Now, if you did get the variable ND filter system, the great thing is that obviously this is going to fit with that 136 diameter, so you can see the size of that. It's not just going to fit that 95mm front diameter, it will go all the way up to that 136 diameter. So if you are using those bigger lenses, you're going to be perfectly fine with the variable ND filter system. Now, speaking of the variable ND filter system, you can actually use your Tilta Nucleus Nano with this as well. Attach it directly at the top, and then you can change obviously your ND with your Tilta Nucleus Nano. Okay, now this is one of the most important parts, the variable ND filter quality. So we need to see what this is going to be like in comparison to full spectrum ND filters, in comparison to the older Tilta Mirage matte box system, and then obviously no ND filter, so we can see what it's like. Now, this is no ND filter. You do have the Tilta Mirage Pro variable ND filter. You can see there's a little bit of vignetting. This is at 24mm. Now, we do have the original Tilta Mirage matte box, you can see how orange the image looks, and there's even some vignetting at 24 millimeters because it's not wide enough. And then you have the full spectrum ND filter that you'd actually purchase through Tilta. Now, obviously, the full spectrum ND filters are generally the best way to go because they're hard stop NDs. They're not too polarizing filters turning on each other exactly like how variable ND filters work. So they're going to be much more accurate, but variable ND filters are so much faster. So look, overall, when it comes to the variable ND filter at 24 millimeters, like there is a little bit of vignetting. You can see the cross polarization of the variable ND filter, which is pretty standard, but you won't notice this too much in most scenes. But if you are a working professional on some pretty high-end sets, you'll know that hard stop full spectrum ND filters are the way to go because you just generally have the best colors and the best performance out of these type of ND filters. So just quickly looking at the color of the VND and if there's any sort of color shift in comparison to having no variable or any kind of ND onto the lens, it doesn't seem like there really is much color shift. I mean, you can clearly see how the variable ND filter works. There are some dark spots on the screen, which is obviously how CPL filters work on top of other CPL filters, which creates that variable ND. But there doesn't seem to be a significant color shift, which is obviously a good thing. Now, for obvious reasons, it really depends on your setup, and most people would probably just manually adjust that ND, really depends, but you can also slip in hard stop ND filters directly into these trays. So you can literally just replace that variable ND filter out, undo one of these trays, slide them out, and put your variable ND filter in. But you can see right here, I've got a 1/8 strength black mist. So this is the 4x5.65 filter. It suits any 4x5.65 filter. You can just clamp it straight in, very simple. And obviously, like I said, you can utilize those hard stop ND filters. So one of the cool features about the actual front of the matte box system is that this is completely removable and it clips on and off really simple. So nice, easy, quick release system. If you do just want to use this part without the actual matte box front and the French flag, you can actually utilize that as well. But, you know, if you do want to block out some of the light, you do actually have that French flag, which not just does the top, but you can actually purchase extra that goes on both sides as well. And these can actually flare out as well. So you do actually have a lot of capabilities to block out that sun, especially if you are using anamorphic or even vintage lenses and you don't want unnecessary flares in particular scenes. Now, in terms of the front matte box system, it has mounting points on every single side. So the sides, the top, and the bottom. But you can also take this French flag and mount it on the bottom if you want. It really depends on where the light sources you're trying to cut, but it's just great that you have so much more versatility in trying to, you know, cut the light. Now, we do have to talk about these plastic cutters right here. So essentially, this is just going to help cut the light, you know, going directly into that lens. So you can clip it directly on the front. They are full sort of perspex plastic design, and they just clip straight in there. Perfect. Now this obviously cuts down on the viewing angle, which blocks some of the light that comes in from particular angles. And if you don't want to use those side French flags, you can utilize these very simple. And you can just take them off and obviously replace it with a smaller one. And as you can see here in the kit, it has 5 different sizes that you can actually choose from to help you cut back on that light. So when it comes to the pricing, it really depends on where you get this from, but this is B&H. You can get the whole complete kit for $849 US. Otherwise, you can get a fully stripped down kit for a whole bunch of different prices, like a basic kit for $549, but then just the extreme basic kit for $299. And then you just have a whole bunch of other different options where you can choose different size clamp-ons. You can even just buy the front carbon fiber hood itself. Some of the French flag options you can get the clamp-on sizes by themselves, and I'm sure you can get the rubber donuts as well. It really depends, but if you just want to go for the whole full kit, $849 US is a very decent price considering that this is targeted towards high-end professionals. So look, overall, obviously highly recommended from me. It's fantastically built. The variable ND system is great. And they've just thought so much more about the build quality of this. And just the whole setup is absolutely fantastic. It definitely is catered towards more of the high-end professional realm. But still, that doesn't mean that, you know, people like me can't use this for, you know, smaller commercials, smaller social media pieces, it still is fantastic. And it's going to give you so much more flexibility on how to actually mount your lens than it is compared to other matte box systems. So anyway, my friends, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. I'll obviously put a link in the description below for this one. I'll put a link in the description below for the older Mirage matte box system if you want to check that one out as well. And obviously all the kit that you get with this. But yeah, thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one. All right, let's get it.